Chapter 23. Bliss. Farewell. Then followed 10 days of unprecedented bliss. Parr found a way to come to Byzantium almost every day, and although the weather retreated into winter again, we barely noticed the cold. We held hands through the thriller and the romantic comedy at the Cinepalace, without noticing a single explosion or kiss. On screen, at least. We spent hours talking about books in Andrezo's Diner, the Java Jail's unfashionable rival, where the coffee was hot, the patrons were scruffy, and the booths had high backs. Ashley and Ned, who was staying at Forefield over the vacation, sometimes joined us. When they did, the noise level in the diner tripled. After Mom's success with the Gerards, Dean Hansen persuaded the headmaster to offer her a contract for the following year. She informed my father immediately by registered mail. Flush with her settled new income, she turned the thermostat up to 68 degrees, and in her happiness she even converted the Treasurer's storeroom back into a painting studio, as it had been during the early years of my parents' marriage. Parr and I spent an afternoon helping her. Parr brought me to lunch at his parents' on the second Saturday of the break. Their house in Steeple Cliff had stone walls, low ceilings, and slanted floors. I could tell it was very old. So this is what was fascinating Snip in Byzantium all week. I was starting to wonder, said Ms. Parr, or Susan, as she told me to call her, with a familiar flashing smile. To my great relief, I found that my table manners were not noticeably different from the Parrs. Charles Grandison Sr., Chip, even punctuated his points by gesturing with his chicken leg. And, to my surprise, he took to me at once, insisting on giving me a tour of the barn out back where he was building a sailboat. "See if you can get Snip to take an interest," he told me. "Half his ancestors were sea captains." I found Parr's room upstairs delightfully revealing. Although he had clearly cleaned up in my honor, he was just as clearly a natural slob. Books, abandoned bird nests, and bits of fencing equipment lay in loosely squared stacks in the corners. He turned out to be an avid bird watcher. It was the wrong season for the more exotic migrants, but he regaled me with stories of the loves and rivalries of the local crows. He had the entire Patrick O'Brian series of naval novels in a heap behind the door, and admitted to having read them all. "But don't tell my dad, it would please him too much," he said. He lent me the first one after making me promise to keep it away from Ashley for a few weeks. Let her go on sharing Ned's interests for as long as possible. I found it hard to drag myself to school during that heavenly period. I particularly resented the Thursday afternoon wasted at sailing. Seth took care to talk to me just as much as ever, as if to prove that there had been nothing particular behind his attentions. But he soon took up with Margaret Barsky, a tall, pretty girl in Miss Milburn's third-period bio, who had hair the same color as mine. They appeared regularly as a couple at the Cinepalace and the Java Jail. I often caught her looking at me with triumph tinged with dislike. From time to time, too, I caught a glance from Seth so full of some strangled emotion that I regretted ever having allowed him to think whatever it was he had thought. My father and stepmother mourned Seth's loss as if he had been one of their own dreamed-of babies. Parr, they pointedly let me know, would never replace him in their affections. When Forefield started up again, Parr and I had to sustain ourselves with email for several weeks. Then we had the happy thought of volunteering at the Byzantium Senior Center at the same time on Tuesday evenings. It was a savvy move for college applications. Or at least, that's how I presented it to Dad. Yvette Gerard, after her insomnia experience, found she liked acting as much as her sister did. With some help behind the scenes from Samantha, the twins and Ashley seized control of Biz High's spring musical from the Michelle Jeffries clique. Ash volunteered to compose the music, and after some persuasion, I agreed to write the lyrics. With all my new activities, time flew by. It's April already. The Four-Field Spring Frolic is this Saturday. Pa and Ned gave us our tickets as soon as they were printed, and we look forward to producing them at the first sight of Turkey Face. Ash has been giggling mysteriously all week, hiding sheets of music whenever I show up at her window. The tree lost its ice weeks ago, but I have to be careful not to tear the tender young leaves. I suspect she and Ned may be planning to surprise me with a waltz or quadrille arrangement of the tune to which Ashley set the poem I wrote so long ago, when Pa seemed to me only a hopeless dream. So far, Ashley's musical craze has held strong, and Pa and I have high hopes that even when it changes, as it inevitably will, her loyalty to those she loves will not allow her to leave Ned behind.
The End. You've been listening to Enthusiasm by Polly Shulman, narrated by Jenny Ikeda. This book is copyrighted 2006 by Polly Shulman. This recording is copyrighted 2006 by Recorded Books. If you've enjoyed this book and this performance, Recorded Books recommends the classic story that inspired author Polly Shulman, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, narrated by Flo Gibson. The business of Mrs. Bennet's life was to get her daughters married. What ensues, elopements, desertions, and misunderstandings, comprise what many consider to be Jane Austen's finest novel. We also recommend Vegan Virgin Valentine by Carolyn Mackler, narrated by Catherine Kellgren. Mara Valentine is in control. She's a straight-A senior, a vegan, and her parents' pride and joy. She's also neck and neck with her womanizing ex-boyfriend for #1 class ranking, and plans to kick his salutatorian butt on her way out the door to Yale. Yes, Mara has her remaining months in Brockport all planned out. Nothing could possibly go wrong. Or could it? You'll find a wide selection of titles in the Recorded Books catalog, including bestsellers, mysteries, classics, histories, and more. So to order another recorded book, or for a copy of our latest listing, please call the toll-free number found on the back of this book. Don't forget to ask about easy 30-day rentals by mail. On our website, you can browse our catalog, place orders, hear about our latest releases, or tune in to narrator profiles and author interviews. So visit us there at www.recordedbooks.com.